The backyard wrestling craze of the late 90s and early 2000s was absolutely huge. Hell, me and my friends even pretended to be wrestlers until I got DDT'd on the floor one day and almost broke my neck. And that's probably why they always told us, don't try this at home, which is actually in the title of the game I'm going to be reviewing today. Backyard Wrestling, Don't Try This at Home, was developed by Paradox Development, who would later become Midway Los Angeles, the team that developed TNA Impact. The game would be published by Eidos Interactive and released in North America on October 7, 2003 for the PS2 and October 9, 2003 for the Xbox, which is the version we're taking a look at here. The game is based on backyard wrestling, obviously, but also has a tie-in with a wrestling promotion at the time called Juggalo Champion Shit Wrestling, which is owned and operated by the musical group The Insane Clown Posse. So expect to not only see the Posse themselves, but also wrestlers from their promotion. And right off the bat, that's exactly what we get with an intro video featuring all of the above set to an Insane Clown Posse song. Once you enter the main menu, you'll quickly realize that the 5-second loop of 70s porn music playing is going to drive you insane. It's pretty rough to say the least, which is shocking as this game features a pretty extensive soundtrack with bands like CKY, ICP, Anthrax, Machine Head, Rancid, Sum 41, Shadows Fall, Dropkick Murphys, and even an option to play from your own custom soundtrack, so you can show your friends what real music sounds like.
Dig it, dig it, macho man. Dig it, dig it, macho man. Dig it, dig it.
That gets my heart.
Get your heart pumping. He gets the party jumping. He's a macho man.
Wrestler selection is what you'd expect from a game like this, though I was surprised to see the inclusion of a few names I actually recognized, like Sabu and Tylene Buck, who was Major Guns in WCW. We also see a wrestler named M-Dog20, otherwise known as Matt Cross from the indie scene, who was actually on Season 5 of Tough Enough. And some guy named Rude Boy, who was busted for kiddie porn. Oh wait, that's a different Rude Boy. Other than that, we get a pretty decent variety of JCW talent. The levels, arenas, are based on various real-world environments like a shopping mall, a truck stop, a TV studio, and, of course, a backyard. Each stage features a ton of weapons, places to climb up and jump from, and even interactive environments. It's a shame, though, that these areas aren't a bit bigger. Before we dive deep into gameplay, we'll take a look at the controls, and this game is fast-paced, so there's not much time to figure them out on the fly. So you'd think that they might be in the pause menu or at least in the options somewhere, but no. And I couldn't even find anything online, so thank God I actually have the instruction booklet because that's the only place that gave me any info at all. X is attack, which usually punches. Attack 2 is done with A. X and A together is strong attack. X and black is knockout attack, but I can't seem to tell the difference between that and strong attack. You pick up weapons with Y, grab your opponent with B, putting them in a hold position. From here, any directional button and X will perform an attack throw. A is for slams and B for Irish whips. X and A together can be pressed to perform a finisher. R is dash, which I find funny because you're always running anyway. There's no option to walk, but with dash you do actually move a bit quicker, and this is the only way to perform running attacks. And L is to pin, which I don't think I've ever used or even seen the AI use, as matches can be won by simply beating the hell out of your opponent until their life meter is depleted. There is a reversal system which requires you to press X, B, or A while your player is flashing, but here's the catch: if you press anything before the flash, you automatically lose the ability to pull off this reversal, and since this game can become quite the button masher, it's hard not to press any of these buttons immediately after being grabbed. The only two modes available for one player are Exhibition and Talk Show mode, the latter of which we'll get into in a bit. Survival, King of the Hill, and Tag require two players, and since I have nobody to play the game with, I'm not sure what those modes are like, but based on the core gameplay, I don't think we could expect too much. Since there is no ring, or even arenas, there are arenas, we don't see any entrances. Instead, we get these short little taunts with voice acting, and as expected, they're a little bit on the cheesy side. As I mentioned before, your wrestler is constantly running, which can make things a little hectic, but in all fairness, I think that's kind of the point. There's definitely a learning curve, as matches can be a bit frustrating for new players. The AI can be extremely cheap, constantly throwing weapons at you, and I do mean constantly. I don't think an opponent has ever even swung a weapon at me, as they exclusively throw them. Oh, and for some reason, these weapons are heat-seeking. It doesn't matter where you're running to, these weapons will predict your every move, making it extremely hard to evade these projectiles. Even after the match is over and you've lost, the AI is still beating the crap out of you. The game also suffers from some collision detection issues. When trying to evade diving attacks, a lot of times you'll end up being hit even though it was evident that you steered clear. I can't tell you how many times I attempted a clothesline, but my opponent's standing jab ended up winning the battle. We also see some pretty buggy AI. Well, maybe more on the dumb side rather than buggy. I've seen wrestlers get stuck going up and down ladders or simply behind objects. The longer I played the game, the more I got the hang of things and kind of learned my way around the buggy gameplay, figuring out ways to exploit the dumb AI at times. Visually, this game has the presentation of maybe an old Dreamcast game. I like the way the environments look, but the wrestlers are pretty hard to look at. But then again, I don't think they were going for realism here with the visuals, so I'll take that into consideration. The game offers a Create a Wrestler mode, but sadly it's quite lacking. First off, I was surprised to see that there are only 6 available slots for created wrestlers, even on the Xbox, but going forward I think you'll agree you won't even really need the full 6. Customization is lacking here, with only 15 pre-made templates available and 12 costume options for each. And assigning moves is sort of a chore as well, as there's no way to preview moves, and they've changed the names of every single move available, even basic moves like the Scoop Slam, so how the hell am I supposed to know what my created wrestler's move list is? Well, there is some hope, but it's not in the Create a Wrestler mode, it's back in the video library menu, where you can watch animated versions of every move in the game. I don't know why they didn't just include these in the Create a Wrestler mode. And speaking of the video library, this is where you can watch videos of backyard wrestlers doing some pretty crazy stuff. I guess if you were a fan of backyard wrestling, this would have been a pretty cool addition, as this was a time when it was kind of harder to find videos on the internet. The main game mode is Talk Show mode. And jumping right into it, I saw cutscenes with voice acting and I thought, okay, this is cool, there's an in-depth story mode here, but unfortunately that just isn't the case. Other than the cutscenes, we simply get gauntlet-style matches where the objective is to defeat a certain amount of enemies in each stage to progress. And every time you lose, You start from the very beginning of that level, which can become a bit frustrating, but honestly, if it wasn't for that feature, this mode would be even shorter than it already is. In between each stage, you'll see a cutscene which takes place on the set of a talk show, where the topic of discussion is backyard wrestling and how it's ruining society. Each segment involves a guest on the show that has some sort of vendetta against you or backyard wrestling in general, delivering a slight plot on why you're actually heading into these locations to fight. That really sums up this mode. There isn't a whole lot here, especially compared to the big name wrestling games that were out at the time. I remember renting this game when it was released and not being really impressed back then, and it's safe to say that all of these years later my views on this game haven't really changed. It has its gameplay issues, but that's not even the thing that bothers me most. What kills me is that everything just feels so rushed. I mean, the Create a Wrestler is lacking, the main game mode is a bit boring and can be completed rather quickly, and there's just not a whole lot of substance here. But with all that aside, if you're a diehard wrestling fan, I'd still say you should add this to your collection. There's still some fun to be had here, just in short spurts. Despite the game's shortcomings, there was a sequel released the next year, which I will be covering soon, so stay tuned for that, along with other videos as well. And as always, thanks for watching, guys and gals.